Come in, Univex. James Bond here. Over.
Welcome everybody to James Bond Aficionado's initial podcast. I'd like to welcome Nate Fox-Pappas of Bond Bonanza. Welcome, Nate. How are you doing tonight?
Not too bad. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
You know what? Not too bad. I can't complain. Nate, I'm gonna just dive into it. Tell us a little bit about what you and Bond Bonanza are all about.
Well, I try to post digital art every day with certain moments from Bond, and just spread my enthusiasm for James Bond uh, to as many people as possible. And as a filmmaker, the franchise itself has been massively impactful on how I perceive films in general now. uh, as a filmmaker, screenwriter.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah.
So who should be some of your inspirations? Like you get your inspiration from like Daniel Kleinman, Robert Brown, John. Uh, the list goes on in the Bond franchise, unfortunately. So, who are some of the influences, I should say,
Well,
from?
seeing as I designed the title or the logo, if you will, more so a title, if anything, for your James Bond account, that leads back to kind of like yes, Daniel Kleinman being a major influence in why I do that in general, basically. And I mean, he was massively, you know, he took from Maurice Binder, who did the original James Bond titles, from what Doctor No to
Oh,
License
the
to Kill, if I'm not mistaken.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, Maurice Binder or Binder or however you pronounce it correctly. People out there, do not kill me or correct us. You can, that'd be great. But I know he did Doctor No. I know he wasn't there for From Russia with Love, which that was Robert Brown
Right.
John.
No, that was okay.
Brown
Yeah.
John also did Goldfinger, and then he was back. Maurice was back for Thunderball. You Only Live Twice. I think he did the one. Yeah, I think he did Live and Let Die, and then eventually it stopped at License to Kill, if I remember correctly, and that was. But I'm not 100% sure. If anybody's out there listening, please drop in the comments who did License to Kill for me. So, Nate, please tell us what was your first encounter in the James Bond franchise?
Well, when I was very young, I was first introduced to Timothy Dalton, in which I just happened to stumble upon with my father and my middle brother when I was younger at Rogers Video. The Living Daylights. And I myself, when I first watched it, I thought it was action thriller isolated on its own, apart from a franchise. When I first started to see there was a bigger picture to this, my aunt and uncle had a collection of James Bond films, VHS. And I borrowed a few from them. They weren't in particular order or anything like that, but I began to watch them and slowly connected the dots, and it intrigued me to eventually kind of look into it further, being what it is, and I started to look at small little snippets from them and figure out which sequential order they were in. And soon enough, like all I would ask for at Christmas was, well, for one, it was like a 7 VHS collection from my mother and father. And I would watch it every Christmas as I slowly began to ask for each and every VHS
Oh, I remember
film.
doing the same exact thing with the VHSs. I used to get one almost every single Christmas, birthday, until there was none else to come out, and then you would have to wait until they had a drop in the theater. Oh, can I get the new Bond film? So I remember doing that exactly. Speaking of the Living Daylights, since that's the first Bond you got started, let's go jump to No Time to Die real quick. Are you excited that the DB9 the DB9 is coming back?
Yes, yeah, I'm quite curious to see how they're going to integrate that into the plot of No Time to Die.
So do you think it's going to have a big sequence, or do you think it's just going to have a little 10-minute brief little segment, and then they're going to just say, that's it, it's gone?
Hard to say. I don't think they will. I mean, I know they've brought back the Aston Martin DB5 as well,
Mm-hmm.
as with the sequences that we saw in the trailer. Although I suspect there's going to be, with Entertainment Weekly and what they've released there, I can only imagine that they're going to be prepping probably a final trailer. I don't expect anything more than that. But, yeah.
Yeah,
The,
I can't wait to see what it all happens, because I actually love the DB9 over the DB5 actually. So I would rather own the DB9 in my personal aspect and drive that thing all the time instead of the DB5. And I know you're different, if I remember correctly.
yeah, if there was any car out there that I would, my dream car, right,
Yeah.
that I would love to drive, would be the Aston Martin V5. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, and I think anybody would, but like I said, the DB9 I think just has that more sportier look. You can remove the top if needed. So, anyway.
I didn't have the corgi. I didn't have like the little.
You didn't have the corgi, huh?
No.
It's rare that you don't see the corgi toys here in the U.S. I know there's people that have seen them, and you can get them now like crazy on eBay, but
Yeah, but they're super expensive. My friend originally had the one that I speak of right now.
yeah,
I got the UK editions of the novels, which I've read them all, and I think the one that's kind of it's interesting because it's told from the Bond girl's perspective in The Spy Who Loved Me. It was very separate from the other ones. It didn't not that there's anything wrong with that, but
no, they're absolutely not.
It's interesting to see it from that angle. Yeah.
So, what's your thoughts about Hans Zimmer coming in and scoring No Time to Die?
I'm beyond thrilled and excited. I can't. He never ceases to impress me with the work that he's done that harks back to The Lion King, and even with the Christopher Nolan films. I'm always impressed with. He's a major influence as a filmmaker for me. But having said that, yeah, it's not just noise. The Hans Zimmer music, on its own, as some might just accept, but he does have a certain consistency to his work, and each and every one is a masterpiece, personally, in my opinion, on its own. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how he tackles James Bond, because he definitely has his own unique style.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely agree. My favorite films of his that he scored are definitely The Dark Knight and Interstellar. So, and
Inception.
Yeah, Inception is definitely one of them as well. So, what are some of your top 3 James Bond movies?
Top 3, hard to say. Well, I can give you the top 3 that I first ever watched.
Yeah, that's fine as well.
I mean, The Living Daylights, as I first mentioned, GoldenEye having been that directly into the introduction of the video game for N64, and that also introduced me to some of the villains that I was not necessarily familiar with. I was slowly becoming familiar with these different characters. but I didn't know which films they were associated with. I digress, nevertheless. Third film probably being, if anything, I can clearly remember the first two. Third, possibly, if anything, Goldfinger. It was one of the films that were in the collection of that belonged to my aunt and uncle.
Okay.
It was one of those ones.
Oh, well, Goldfinger, let alone, has that standalone effect that you gotta have it in your collection if it's definitely a standalone.
It was one of the first that I got. Yeah,
So,
it was one of the first that I owned.
well, and if everybody is watching out there, there is a "You Only Live Twice" poster behind you. Can you explain the story behind that, or?
I got it for Christmas at one point from my aunt and uncle, oddly enough.
Is there any emotional tie behind "You Only Live Twice"? Do you like the culture aspect of it, or what
I
makes
like
you
the fact that
stand?
it's set in Japan. I'm very much, I've studied Japanese in the past, either for the past 2 and almost 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I like the fact that it's set in Japan, and even like the scope of the production design, the art direction, uh, kind of it was larger than life, right? The production design of the actual set for You Only Live Twice. What really surprised me was the amount that it cost to create that set was the amount that it cost to make Doctor No originally.
Oh, absolutely, and it's
It's
so
crazy.
crazy about that. Yeah, I absolutely agree because you watch all the behind the scenes stuff, and then you're like, only $1 million for Doctor No, and then you turn on the behind the scenes for You Only Live Twice. The volcano layer only cost $1 million and or so, and now today's money, it's like, please, that's just chump change right there. If you want it, let's do it. So, anyways, tell me more about your production company. If I remember correctly, it's called Chemical Kiss, correct?
Yes, yeah, Chemical Kids Productions. It's an indie production company in which currently I produce lyrical-based music videos, working with TO-based musicians, in which the lyrics themselves, as you can imagine, it kind of speaks for itself. The lyrical-based music videos, the lyrics seen on screen, uh, the music video itself functions as title design. Surprise, right? I mean, like, given that I'm influenced by Daniel Kleinman and whatnot, that seems to be a direction that I'm veering towards. Also, not to mention in the past, I'm currently writing a narrative right now, kind of polishing it off a bit. I have a volume one of a narrative titled "No Sushi for Starved Children." So next to that, that's I alternate between those two.
So, if I was correct, I actually stumbled on a Thunderball music video that you made.
Ah, yes, yeah, that's
I
right,
I
yeah.
really enjoyed watching that just before I called you, actually, and I gotta say that was quite amazing. So, if I I'm very impressed with all your stuff that you have done. So, again, we know you did the title for my page, and well, in a sense, it's a logo as well because it has turned into my logo. Uh,
Hmm.
I can't thank you enough as well. So on that, so once again, thank you.
You're most welcome.
Um,
No worries. Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to No Time to Die real quick as
Hmm.
well.
Yeah.
We all know Christoph Waltz is coming back now as Blofeld, and I know a lot of people did not like his portrayal as Blofeld. Are you for this, or would you have rather seen somebody else come back?
I was
Or
very interested to see whether they were going to delve into the fact that he gets the side of his face gets scarred the way that Donald Pleasance is the way that his character is projected in that of You Only Live Twice, and there's Blofeld appears in his hands only in the beginning in the early Sean Connery films, but having said that, whether he would return like that, like Donald Pleasance, very much, and respectively as well, the way that Mike Myers went about his comedic take on Bond.
Yes.
But no, I mean, like the fact that they extended that out and brought him back in the third act, it was very interesting to see the final showdown between Daniel Craig's James Bond and Spectre, and just the fact that I honestly I didn't believe that they were gonna kill him off or anything like that at the end of Spectre, and it's nice to see him again returning in this almost Hannibal Lecter type role. I don't know how far that's going to go. We can only speculate at this point, but patience for now, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I know I'm sitting on the edge of my seat still. Like, I personally, Christoph Waltz wasn't that great, but as an actor,
the performance itself was amazing. Whether you don't like the fact that they brought back the character again.
I'm absolutely all for.
Different.
I'm absolutely all for that they're bringing him back. I think it's good that this could potentially wrap up the Blofeld saga, in a sense. By hopefully they will kill him off in this one. I will agree with you on this, though. I'm still shocked that they went with the scarring of Donald Pleasance Blofeld. Instead of, having him stay secret. Like, I thought they would have actually kept him behind, like, in the earlier Connery films, like you said. Just typing away and talking in that dark meeting. I thought that's how they would have kept him. And, they didn't show his face at all in the funeral scene. So,
yeah. But I'm glad they went the route that they did. It's intriguing to see that he returns, and I think they really kept it secret. As I personally would if I were putting together the next Bond film.
Well, do you think he should die coming No Time to Die?
I wouldn't be one to answer that right now. I don't. I don't know if I'd write it that way. Yeah. It's hard to say. Because they're introducing Safin right now, and
what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Do you think? Let's also jump into the other question on this. And there's also rumors of him being Dr. No. So this is a two-part question. Do you think the rumors are true of him being Dr. No?
I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised. Yeah, no, honestly, like at this point, I think I doubt people would really be like. I wouldn't be disappointed if he were to be revealed as Dr. No. I think it's rather fitting given his demonic demeanor. I wouldn't even say demonic, but he has like that a vibe that reminds me to that of Dr. No, and physically in terms of the character from Alec Trevelyan from GoldenEye, right? Because he has the scars on his face. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I started thinking about it, and I know I told you we started interviewing last night, and unfortunately I lost all the footage, so this is our second take on this. But as I think about it, if he is Dr. No, let's say, and the reason why he has that scarring, what if it is a nuclear reaction to his face that blew blew up on his face and scarred it or something like that.
Even scarring on its own, like no one necessarily wants to look that way.
No, and that could explain the mask.
The mask, like seriously, like, and that's acceptable because I know we spoke yesterday, and you were saying as long, I mean, it needs to kind of have there needs to be reasoning behind that. I mean, next to the fact that it's an interesting, it's a visually, it's very compelling, right?
Oh, absolutely, and it stands out. You can't just forget it that it's not there. It stands out.
It's going to be there for a reason, and even hypothetically, even if it was, I think it's a nice touch to a character like that.
Oh,
it separates him from everybody else, right? I mean,
oh, absolutely. Every villain and henchman brings its own certain identity.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it could work, right? And I think, given that they revealed there is in the trailer, Madeline Swan looks down and she opens a box and there's the mask in there. There's a mask, maybe not his mask, but
who knows whose mask it really is?
How it's connected. How it's connected together with her past is the question.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Here's another tough question. Which direction do you think Eon should go after Daniel Craig officially departs after this film, and who would your replacement be?
If anything, I think they ought to take a break and just kind of reflect on the years that they had with Daniel Craig as James Bond. I know it's been 5 years since we've seen him as James Bond. And considering for a James Bond sequel, it is. All Daniel Craig films are sequels. Even Quantum of Solace, that was set just a few minutes after Casino Royale.
Yeah.
So each one is interconnected like that, so closely. Obviously, it's a little different, but they always hark back to it. Even so, having said that, when he finishes there, I think maybe they should just reel back. And I mean, at most it could be 2 years, but if anything, I would foresee possibly, as I mentioned to you yesterday, there was Henry Cavill that I mentioned, but first and foremost, possibly Michael Fassbender. I came across a piece of fan art, and it seemed to really speak to me in terms of the way that it was designed, and it just screamed Bond.
Yeah,
but who knows, really? At this point, and I think Christopher Nolan at one point was, don't quote me on this, but he spoke with the producers as well.
Yes, I remember actually. I actually remember that happening. He was, I think, truly the right choice before Danny Boyle came on before Carrie Fukunaga.
Christopher Nolan, yeah.
Yeah, I would have welcomed.
And it would work if Nolan was to reboot the franchise. He all I know is from what I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but if anything, he's interested in doing it, but it would need to be the right time.
Absolutely.
And so that this may be the right time, and if so, it may be hard for you to hear it, but Tom Hardy is another massive contender for who I may. I'm sure it probably won't be, but I could definitely see Tom Hardy as well playing James Bond.
Well, we all
especially
know.
Yeah.
Well, we all know my thoughts on that, and especially after last night. So,
everyone is entitled to their own opinion. I mean, for all we know, it could be, we never thought Heath Ledger would play the Joker. Speaking of Christopher Nolan,
Wow.
but like here he is, and he won Best Supporting Role.
Yeah, and he
The
left
role.
a mark on the role. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So yeah,
I
Christopher Nolan, possibly. Yeah, I don't know.
I agree.
That's,
I agree. I would love to see Christopher Nolan at least do the next one. I know a lot of people would say, "Oh, let's bring back Martin Campbell," because Martin Campbell always says, "Oh, I want
yeah,
to start over with whoever
yeah.
the next new Bond is." Hence, he did GoldenEye with Pierce Brosnan. He did Casino Royale with Daniel Craig's
How old
debut.
is he now?
Oh,
Martin Campbell.
Martin Campbell. I think he's up in his 70s. I,
Yeah.
if anyone out there is listening, once again, please drop in the comments the correct age of Martin Campbell. So, anything you do not want to see coming No Time to Die, or
I'm always excited for Bond films in general, so there really isn't anything, like nothing that I'm not too uh, boggled and not to see, right?
mm-hmm. Oh,
So I
I
mean,
absolutely agree with you on that. I still get excited every time I go to the theater.
like next to like James Bond, it's almost like like it's like the next Tarantino film is always a film that I look forward to. It's always like when it hits similar to that of James Bond. That's that comparison, like Woody Allen for me personally as well, or even like my parents, but I inherited it through them. Not to mention, yeah, as well, my parents, like even my mother recalls back to like the day in which on Boxing Day she'd go see the Roger Moore films, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and if you
yeah,
remember, your parents would remember, and so would my parents. Anybody of the older generation, you would get two James Bond films at once instead of because it would be they would promote it as a double feature.
yeah.
And
No, and I've
nowadays,
never had that band.
uh, and nowadays, you only get one Bond film, and you don't know when it's going to come out next. Like for instance, Spectre and No Time to Die. It's been a 6 year gap.
Well, they always had at the end of the Bond films, they they had the end of of For Russia with Love, but James Bond will return in Goldfinger, right? And they always had the title for the next one,
Oh, and I would always welcome that back, to be honest.
with the exception of Moonraker, which was at the end of. They weren't expecting that, but with all the buzz of Star Wars, they felt they need to take Bond out to space,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and I don't know if you notice, at the end of Goldfinger, originally it said James Bond will return in on Her Majesty's Secret Service.
That's right. Yeah, that too. Yeah, similar to
But
that of yeah.
then they changed it at last minute. And you can still find cuts of the out there that still say that, but nowadays, of course, all the versions out there say James Bond will return in Thunderball. Anyways, I got a few rapid fire questions for you to wrap tonight up.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Favorite James Bond actor?
Sean Connery.
Favorite Bond girl?
I'd say Natalia. Yeah.
I would have to go Domino myself, to be frankly honest.
It's difficult for me. I'm between that and someone of the Sean Connery era. I'm just thinking, yeah, Domino is there for me too. Yeah, it's up there. Yeah.
Favorite Bond villain?
Blofeld. Donald Pleasance's Blofeld.
I love him in Halloween, by the way.
That too. Yeah. 78. So that was a little after, right? Yeah, 10, almost, 11 years after.
Favorite layer?
Probably from most impressive, I'd say, that kind of had an impact on He was, as I mentioned earlier, you only live twice. The secret volcano lair.
Quoting Dr. Evil right there, everybody.
Yes.
Favorite James Bond car? I take it it's still the DB5.
Yes. DB5. Yeah, that's my DB5.
Favorite Bond location that you would want to visit someday?
GoldenEye, hands down, to see the birthplace of where Ian Fleming originally wrote the Bond films. The Bond novels, sorry.
No, it's all good.
Which eventually became the films. Yes, yeah.
Favorite pre-title sequence?
Mm. I'd say of the Daniel Kleinman era. I'll separate it from Maurice Binder and Daniel Kleinman, and of course I'm taking into account from Russia with Love and Goldfinger as well. But having said that, if anything, probably GoldenEye with Daniel Kleinman. It's pretty iconic for me. It's one of the first that I saw, and of the Maurice Binder, I'd say. Possibly Thunderball, actually, now that I think of it. Yeah.
Well, Nate, I got to thank you once again for being on tonight. It was a real honor having you.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. It was my pleasure to be here. Yeah.
If you're all wondering how to check out Nate's work, go to Bond Bonanza on Instagram or check out his narrative page as well. chemicalkiss.com, that is with a K. I will also drop the links in the description. Nate, thank you very much for being here tonight.
Thank you very much.